This is how we do it.
This is how we do it.
La 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 la. La 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 la.
This is how we do it.
Hello and welcome to another segment of This Is How I Do It. I am IT Beast, and today we're going to go over VMware's newest product that is in current development called WSX Server. Alright, so what is WSX Server? As you can see, is like I said, development's a prototype that basically uses your web browser in order to view your virtual machines. Now, this web browser can be either on a normal PC, your tablet, or any device with a modern HTML5 web browser. So how does WSX Server work? Well, the actual web server part of it gets installed on, it could be either a client Windows operating system, server operating system, it could even be a Linux operating system itself, but I'll be covering the Windows end of it today. Alright, the host system requirements. Well, there really is not a whole lot of system requirements. From my lab testing I've done, I found these work the best. If you're going to have more than a concurrent 10 users, you want to probably go with the recommendations I've made on the right. As far as operating system itself, you can use Windows XP or you can use Windows Server 2003. Either or will work, and of course you can use either 32-bit or 64-bit. It does not matter. If you're going to do the more of the 10 concurrent users, you're going to probably end up wanting to go with a server operating system. As far as Linux distributions, again, I'm not going over that per se, but you can pretty much install it on any of the Linux distributions out there, whether it be Red Hat Linux, Ubuntu, Fedora, and the list goes on. We are only going to go over the WSX Server working with VMware Workstation today. I have done the XSI server end of it. However, my home lab is not as robust as, say, my work lab. So one day when I do get the ability to do so, then I will do that segment separately of this. But anyways, I'm going to list them all here anyways. First thing of all, you have to download it. This link right here is the only place where it's really available to download. Alright, as far as web browsers support it, the ones that are officially supported are Mozilla Firefox, Google Chrome, and Apple Safari. We'll do the demonstration on Mozilla Firefox. Alright, as far as Internet Explorer, it's not officially supported. Some of the functionality may not work correctly. It does work on most things, especially 1.1. The one thing I found that it had issues with is where you could view it without seeing the browser outline. However, most things do work with Internet Explorer. Now let's go to the download site and I'll show you how to download the WSX server. Okay, we're at the website now, and as you can see, I put in our link that I put in my PowerPoint description. We're going to go to where it says download WSX. As you can see, this is a community, so it has the different types of support or information you can browse through if you want to, but today we're just going to go download the actual installer file itself. Here are the two versions I was telling you about. This is for the stable, which is 1.02, and this is the one we're going to download, which is the 1.1 beta. Click on the download button. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and log in, and if you haven't registered before, you're going to have to register. So let's go ahead and type in our information. And log in. Alright, we are now at the download page. And we have actually 3 options. This is just the licenses link, which you don't really need. You can go ahead and download the view if you like. 2 of the options are for Linux, 32-bit and 64. And then for the one we need, it's right here, the .msi installer for 1.1. Click on Download Now. Click I agree and accept. Save your file. As always, let's remember where we put the file. And then we will go ahead and, after we decide where to put it, click Save. And bam, it's done. So we'll go ahead and close our website and go ahead and install it. Alright, so we're back on the desktop and we're going to go ahead and start our WSX installation. You right click and just hit install. And of course we can run it. Alright, the install process is very basic and very straightforward. Of course we accept our license agreement, hit next. Okay, as you see in the lettering above you, I have what you're basically going to need to do. If you're on the local computer, you'll need to type into your web browser. And then if you're on another computer that WSX is not installed on, what you'll need to type in. So if it's on your local computer to where it's already installed, you're going to need to type in http://localhost : and then 4/8. And then you'll hit enter. Now if you're on a different computer or device, then you'll need to type in the fully qualified name or the IP address. So http://myserver.com, or in this case myserver : then the 4/8. Or like I said, you can do the IP address as well. You can do the http://192.168.0.2 : then the 4/8. Now the port number can also be changed. You can change this port number to wherever you want, but normally we just leave it at the default. So we'll go ahead and hit next. Alright, and it's ready to begin. And we're finished. So we'll go ahead and click finished. And it is installed. So what we're going to do now is that we're going to open our VMware workstation. I'm using version 10 at this time. So we're going to go ahead and open that, and then we will begin on how to share a VMware Virtual Machine in order for you to see it in WSX Server. Alright, we are now in our VMware workstation. Again, this is version 10. However, 9 will work, or possibly 8, because 8 also shares VMs as well. So again, I haven't tested it, so I can't say 100% positive. It should also work with what we're doing with that WSX server. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to share a VM, but before we do that, we're going to check the settings. We're going to go to Edit, and again, this is in 10, so I don't know if it's slightly different in 8. I know 9 is basically the same thing. Preferences. Go down to Shared VMs. Now what you want to do is you want to make sure before you make a shared virtual machine that you have a directory already set that you want to use. As you can see, I've already created on my E drive shared virtual machines, where it will end up going after it's shared. Now if you want to change the port to default 8443, you can. Now for WSX Server, this you will not need to worry about. This is automatically done through the WSX Server. Any changes to the port if you want to make, though, you have to disable the sharing. So we're going to hit OK because the settings are correct. Alright, so now we're going to take our virtual machine that we're going to use for our test, and we are going to move it over to shared VMs. We're just going to drag it. Alright, as you can see, this wizard came up. So we're going to go ahead and hit next. Now, it's giving you a choice. It's saying, alright, we can just move the virtual machine over to the shared virtual machine folder, or we can make a clone of it and then move that clone over to the virtual machine folder. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on that in this case because I do want to make a clone. I don't want to use my original. Now, what you may in order have to do if that option's grayed out is before you actually share the machine, you may have to make a snapshot of it because it uses that in order to make the clone. And then we'll retitle this so it doesn't have the exact same name. We'll just call it WSX. And then we are going to click Finish. So what it's doing right now, it's going to clone the machine, which could take quite a while. And then afterwards, it will share that machine into the shared virtual machine folder. So while it's doing that, I am going to go ahead and speed up time so we don't have to sit here and drool and fall asleep while it is doing its thing. Alright, as you can see, we've now finished sharing out the virtual machine, so we're going to go ahead and close it out. At least close it out of the wizard. And if you take note, there's now two machines, my original and the shared one. Now, the reason why we have to do it shared is because if we don't, it will not show up in WSX. So that's the whole reason why we have to do the shared virtual machine. So at this time, we're going to go ahead and we are going to power it on. Alright, while it's powering on, we're going to go ahead and close this up. Just shrink it down for right now. Alright, so we've opened our web browser. I've typed in my address I need in order to get to my WSX server since it is on the local host. This is the web address we need to type, just like I specified when we installed a WSX server. If I was on another machine trying to contact this machine, then I would of course put in mypc colon 8888 instead of localhost, just like I said in the installation. So we're going to go ahead and hit enter. Alright, as you can see, we are now authenticating against the WSX server. So remember, on your own machine, of course, you just authenticate with your normal login. But if you're on another machine going to the WSX server, you got to remember the authentication. If it's not in a domain, if it's just another standalone machine, the login and password for that. If you're in a domain and doing this, then of course you can just use your normal domain login information. So let's go ahead and we're going to go ahead and log in. Click on login. Alright, so now we're on to the next page. On the left hand side, you see a thing called shared VMs. Because we are on a local host, it will already list that for you. If you're on another machine, then you need to type in the address of that VMware workstation, whether it be an IP address or the fully qualified name. If you're trying to contact an EXSI server, same deal. You'll have to go ahead and put in the not the web address, either the IP address of that machine, that server, or the fully qualified name. In this case, we're going to do the shared VMs since that's what we're testing it off of today. Alright, now it says to log into shared VMs. Again, since it's the same machine that you're running your WSX server on, your same credentials work. So once again, you'll have to type in the credentials that you originally typed in with to get to WSX server. Now, if you're on a different machine going into whatever the workstation is, the credentials could be different as before. So remember that. And then we log in. Alright, so we are logged in. As you can see, it's shared VM's local host. You can disconnect from the server, but I don't really think you want to do that. Depending on how many VMs, we only have the one, you can actually do a filter search for whatever VM virtual machine you have. Normally, all virtual machines are listed with which one you have to connect. Also, note on the right-hand side the version of WSX Server you're currently using. Now we're going to click on our virtual machine. Alright, so we are on the virtual machine now through the web browser. As you can see, there's very limited options, but all you really need to do is to work off the virtual machine, so that's not really a big deal. But I'll show you a basic description of the machine. As you can see, you can also type in a description if you have the privileges to do so. Hardware, how much memory it has, how many processors, you can suspend it or you can power it off, or you can turn it on, again, if you have the permissions to do so. Now we're going to come down to the right. As I said before, if you're on a Windows box, you need to do a Control-Alt-Delete. Well, guess what? The Control-Alt-Insert doesn't work here. So what they have done, if you go to your right-hand side, it has a CAD button, which means Control-Alt-Delete. So we'll click on that, and your login box will then show up. So what you're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and enter our virtual machine and hit enter. That wonderful Windows background music when you log in. Now, we're also going to go ahead and, as I like to say, we're going to blow up the screen. This box right here will allow us to go full screen. You may see a little box saying you are now on localhost :8888. Sometimes, depending on the firewall values, you may have to click a box so you don't see that screen again. In this case, we didn't have to. But as you can see, we are currently now on our Windows Server 2003 test machine. Bringing up the old Windows Update, show you that we are definitely on the internet. Just go to a normal website. And there you go. So there are many benefits of, once they get all the bugs ironed out of WSX, are just limitless. I mean, between your portable device, your tablet, your PC, as I'm sure some of you have already figured, it could be configured to be used on the outside, so you could log in from the outside when you have it properly configured. You can go into via your Google tablet. There you go. You just use your Firefox or your Chrome. You can get right into your own virtual machine and do whatever you want, and it's like you being there. So we're going to go ahead and hit escape. We're going to go ahead and exit out of the box. Now what you want to do is, before you leave, is you're probably going to want to log yourself off. So I'm going to go ahead and go back in there real quick. I'm going to do this and log myself off. Then once you see it log off, I'll go ahead and head on out. Alright, hit escape again. Okay, so we're done. So I'm going to go ahead and exit out our WSX server. I'm sorry, out of our web page. The server's still running in the background. Alright, so that's it for today. Thank you for joining me on another segment of This Is How You Do It. If you liked what you saw, please click you liked it, and if you really like it, please subscribe.